to the presentation of results of the report of Alluvial gold exploitation in Colombia 2020. We greet all the persons who are right now connecting to this broadcasting. It is 8:00. My name is Monica Leon from Bogota, location at the UN ODC. We have with us Minister of Mine and Energy, Diego Mesa Puyo, and Director of Public Infrastructure from the Minister of Defense, Álvaro Chávez Guzmán. In remote connection, we have the presence of the United States Ambassador, Mr. Philip Golder, and the representative of the United Nations Against Drug and Crime, Mr. Pierre Lepac. The presentation will start with the opening words of Mr. Pierre Lepac, then we'll continue with the Ambassador Philip Golder, and then we will continue with Mr. Álvaro Chávez, and after that we will pass to the technical presentation of the results of that report. Mr. Mesa Diego Puyo, Minister of Mines and Energy, will be in closing this event. Follow this broadcasting through the social media YouTube channel UN ODC Colombia and also Facebook main site of Minister of Mines and Energy. Join the chat with hashtag Exploitation Oro Alluvial, hashtag Oro Alluvial, Exploitation Oro Alluvial, and hashtag EVOA. In Twitter account of the United Nations Office Against Drug and Crime, the acronym in English UNODC, and also in Ministry of Mines and Energy, you will find updated information of this event and in general through all the year about the exploitation of alluvial gold phenomenon. Follow us in Twitter as at UNODC Colombia and at Minenergia Co. Something new, the presentation of the results this year of the report of alluvial gold exploitation has a broadcasting in English. Simultaneous interpretation is available live in the YouTube channel at UNODC Colombia, and you can find Alluvial Gold Exploitation 2020 evidence from remote sensing. So we will start this event with the opening words from Mr. Pierre Lepac, representative of the United Nations Office Against Drug and Crime. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning to all who are accompanying us today in the alluvial gold exploitation, which we are sharing with you so we can show evidence for the design of public practices and intervention strategies that respond to all the illegal challenges in Colombia. In a very cordial way, I would like to greet you to the Minister of Mining and Energy and the Ambassador of the United States, Mr. Philip Golder, and Infrastructure and Mining from the Ministry of Defense, Álvaro Chávez, and all the authorities that work for the promotion for the illegal culture, against the illegal culture. Continue with this report, the 5th year of the historical series of the evidence monitoring of alluvial gold exploitation. We will continue to have progress in the missions to create technical evidence to make better decisions in our institutions that would allow us to have sustainable development in our country. I would like to make use of this opportunity to thank the Ministry of Mining and Energy and the American government for supporting UNODC in this endeavor and for accompanying all the Colombian society in the path to all the sustainable and prosperous practices. Colombia is one of the countries in the world with more and some of the best information on the alluvial gold exploitation. We are an experience that deserves to be shared in the cooperation frameworks. Colombia is in the cutting edge on the use of analytical technology to enlarge the growth for the illegal mineral mining, which is a concern for many countries because they have connections with the organized crime, international uh, crimes, and the evidence with corruption and other associated crimes. The monitoring is fundamental in the integration of the studies for three pillars. The first one is the relation for the alluvial gold exploitation, and we have through remote perception tools. The second one is the model and illegal characteristics, and the third one is the model for the management of the territory and functions of the environmental for the mining practices. Among other findings, this model establishes that 52% of the Evoa in the territory are found in zones where they have mining is protected environmentally. The rest of them, 48% of, are in free zones from the environmental restrictions. These are zones where we can have progress with these activities. Just this finding, and apart from two possible strategies to confront or face this problem. In the first universe is to seek activities that or alternatives for this mining. In the second one, we can seek formulation of mining. And these are institutional frameworks and operational ones that are totally different. On the other hand, 48% of the Evoa are in the social management territories that are created to protect all the cultural and wildlife. Here, I would like to highlight the ancestral or heritage restriction through the Afro-American ethnics, which represent 48%, more than 41,000 hectares of all the alluvial gold exploitation territories, which are the black communities are being affected strongly by the illicit crops, violence, and the lack of opportunities to be able to achieve the development of their activities. Finally, allow me to highlight other findings that we have in the report. 69% of the Evoa, almost 70,000 hectares, are in the illegal exploitation, and this is a great moment where we are not only to work with together with the Ministry of Energy and Mining. This requires an institutional work where we can reach the territories and we can articulate them with the local authorities. The ministry role is fundamental, and we must find all the mechanisms to support and to strengthen this leadership. For this reason, our immediate work is proposing to arrive to these territories and to improve the access of information so we can offer them more analytical tools for this phenomenon, and especially to understand the relationship with the vulnerabilities of the population. The strategical alliance among the Ministry and of Energy and Mining, the United States, and the entities for drugs and crimes are giving us the solution here for the legal problems in Colombia are going through all the territories in terms of security, stability, and competitiveness. 41% of the territories with Ebola in our land have also been growing coca. This is an influence that will allow us to take all this evidence to the problem and with the complexities. The presence of Ebola and of cocaine or coca are giving us proof of other problems that need solutions, the institutionality that should strengthen, and the community that needs to find other alternatives to have progress towards the development in the legal framework, security framework. And
thank you very much to you, Mr. Lepac. We continue presenting the report of alluvial gold exploitation with the presentation of Mr. Philip Goldberg, Ambassador of the United States in Colombia. Follow the social media of the United States Embassy in Colombia Twitter account hash at US Embassy Bogota at US Embassy Bogota. Mr. Goldberg, the floor is yours.
good morning to all. Special greetings to the Minister of Mining and Electricity, Diego Mesa and Sandoval. I am the rep for the United Nations Office against Drugs and Crime, LEPAC. To all the delegates of all the institutions of the government in Colombia and international organizations that are accompanying us. Once more, we have the privilege to make part of this alliance with the Ministry of Energies and Electricity with the Office of the United Nations against Drugs and Crime. It's an alliance that we have strengthened with the official representation of the last evidence report for the open pit mining for EVOA 2020. I would like to recognize the strength of all the entities that have been contributing to this report that has become the official document of the Colombian government and that represents a valuable tool of consultancy for all the institutions that are contributing against the fight of the illegal mining and all the crimes that are connected to this. I would like to also highlight some very important data of this last report. How is the growth throughout 2020 of all the gold production in more than 10 tons in comparison with the prior year, in a moment where its price also reached a historical value. This point can show the growth of a sector and a dynamizing factor for the economy. We consider the increase of 58% in the results of all the operations against illicit or illegal exploitation, reaching or achieving an impact against these organized groups that are seeking to strengthen their criminal structures and illegal businesses, taking all the resources from the Colombian people. It has attracted our attention, and we are concerned with all the exploitation in these zones that have environmental protection zones. For our government, it's fundamental to contribute to the defense and conservation of the biodiversity, the sustainable management of the natural resources, and the environment, of course. Colombia is globally recognized as one of the richest in the biodiversity. We condemn the systematic destruction of great value zones and the world. In behalf of these organizations that are legal, is not only a threat to the biodiversity of the environment and the Colombian people's health, but it is also create violence and poverty. I would like to reconfirm our commitment and support to all the actions that will contribute to the fight against the illegal mining exploitation, especially the one of gold. And we would like to continue strengthening the criminal investigation operations of mining intervention and all the captures and convictions of the criminal structures. In the same manner, we would like to continue supporting the recovery of all these contaminated areas by mercury and all the technical part for all these miners, the economical alternatives, mining economies, and the scientific invest or research focused on the clean, useful technologies, so these areas can become agricultural resources zones and they're rich in fauna and wildlife. And last but not least important is the coordination, interinstitutional coordination, which we're able to take to different developments to communities and the institutional presence that are so much needed that will allow us to take this legal mining activities that is friendly with the environment, and in this way we can enjoy a better quality, a better life quality free of violence and contamination. Thank you very much for this space and good day to all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for your words. We recommend all of us who are connected this broadcasting, whether in Spanish or in English, will be available at YouTube channel UNODC Colombia. I give the floor right now to the Public Security and Infrastructure from the Ministry of Defense, to Mr. Álvaro Chávez. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. Well, greetings to Mr. Minister of Mines, Diego Mesa. Greetings to Mr. Ambassador of the United States in Colombia, Philip Goldberg, representative from the United States against drug and crime, Mr. Pierre Lepac. And I appreciate very much the invitation to this important event. This is the 5th year where we have the opportunity to have this important analysis done by the UN Office Against Drug and Crime, giving us important tool to have better tuned details for the initiative of this event, protecting the environment and the natural resources, strategic resources of the nation, and mainly in this fight developed against the illegal economy that is doing a lot of harm, and that's the minerals illegal exploitation. By 2016, 2018, 2019, by 2020 we received the report. We are preparing the report of 2021. The analysis start first with some land monitoring to the illegal exploitation activity, and then we are, since 3 years ago, moving to different rivers. We start with 4, then we move to 6, and right now we are monitoring 10 rivers in the Amazonian area. This allowed us to do a permanent assessment that will bring possibilities in 2 ways. The first path is the quality, aiming that those persons interested on developing an mining activity with the technical conditions, respecting the environment, respecting the standards, can do that in the best manner, and for that they have the institutional support or the second path, where we need to go from the Ministry of Defense, deploying all the capacities the public service has on the head of the military services and the national police. Through the use of the inputs provided by the tool, we have been able to develop an institutional strategy fighting against this illegal economy, illegal minerals exploitation by 2020 and 2021. What has gone from 21 allowed to detect 270 points of gold deposits, alluvial extraction in the Low Cauca, south of Bolivar, Chocó, mainly close to the Atrato River, Cauca and Nariño provinces, Amazonas, Putumayo, in Caquetá, Guainía, and in the border with Venezuela. Those inputs, that information has allowed our public service through comprehensive actions to protect not only the geostrategic resources of the nation, but also important results from the operational standpoint in terms of illegal gold extraction in the modality of alluvial. And with this performance, we have been able to detect 422 operative cases, 2,376 mines intervened, the arrest of 715 individuals, destruction of 150 heavy machines and 265 dredges, with 213 decree and 73 heavy machineries, 170 dredges, 1,000 exploitation, extraction, machinery with motor pumps and different backhoes, 250 grams of mercury. And I need to do a special emphasis, 205 grams of mercury that are permanent polluting our rivers, and 27,000 fuel gallons. We have expected for the rest of 2021 an important number of operations, and we will continue with this articulated effort in permanent coordination and support, not only from the Ministry of Mine, but also the support of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime and the United States government and friend countries. We have been working all together in these border areas with common rivers with the neighboring countries, so we will continue developing the different contundent impacts as the President instruction and Minister of Defense instructions against all these illegal expressions on the head of these groups interested on continuing profiting from this extraction, helping their illegal or illicit activities given by the illegal exploitation of gold in the country rivers. So thank you very much. Thank you to you, Mr. Chavez. So we remember to all the persons that you can join us if you are virtually connected to this presentation of the report of alluvial gold exploitation, and you can follow this event through the social media of the Ministry of Mines and Energy at MinEnergiaco Twitter account of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime at UNODC Colombia, and also through Twitter account of the United States Embassy at U.S. Embassy Bogota. Now we will continue with the technical presentation by the leader of the digital satellite imaging processing from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Ms. Sandra Rodriguez. Thank you very much and good morning. We're going to present some points that we consider strategic, not only in the reports and how this information can be useful for the public policy definition fighting against illegal exploitations by the end of the presentation. I want you to invite you to read in detail this information. I also want to tell you that this is the fifth report presented thanks to the coordination and cooperation between the Ministry of Mines and Energy, United States, and the Office of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. Before presenting the report, I want to say that this is not making any reference to the survey of gold mining. It is more focused on alluvial gold exploitation, so you're not going to find anything here with underground mining or exploitation, or not neither with the subsistence mining. Let's bring the context. We need to understand that this monitoring system is based on three pillars: the detection, articulation, and the territory. First pillar, the detection. The detection is telling us where is EVOA, first of all. Second, the dimension, the area of EVOA. We are just going to be mentioning now the first part. We can know the territories, where it is, the municipalities, the rivers, the parks. But now I want to precise again, we are only analyzing the dimension and detection of EVOA. The second pillar, the law. The law figures are giving us a closer indication of the character of legality and what are the law figures present in the Colombian framework that will characterize if an EVOA is licit or not. Alluvial gold exploitation are called EVOA from now on. The third pillar makes reference to the restrictions of the Colombian territory for alluvial gold exploitation or minerals in general, making reference to environmental restrictions condensed, recorded in the mining framework's Code of Mines. And this divides the territory into some territories where it is authorized to do this exploitation following the law, but also it says where any exploitation can be done, and also it tells us where, with some specifics and some particular connotation, the activity can be developed. So when we are talking about the monitoring, we are including all the three aspects. We go from the dimension of EVOA to the legal character, and then where can it be or not exploited. And that gives us a general idea of what can be done in those territories. Let's talk about what the detection. As I said before, detection makes reference to these visible fingerprints in the territory, footprints in the territory. And this is alluvial gold exploitation with machinery on land. And in general, that are done in two modalities: machinery on land, these ones on the screen, or on water. Both have completely different footprints to detect and to manage. In the screen, alluvial gold exploitation with machinery on land, visible easily. The characteristics is that there are some flourishings. There are flourishings on the land. We lost the general plant coverage, and that's very visible. And for that, we designed a methodology at the beginning of the monitoring based on traditional tools of remote sensing. Different perception is founded with the EVOA alerts on water, those exploitation of alluvial gold with machinery on water, dredgers, rafts. We were talking mainly before of backhoes, but these rafts are not leaving a visible evidence. What you are seeing here in the screen is just a dredge or a raft and a river, but that's a very important challenge addressed also with remote sensing tools, but with more specialized tools that will allow us to see beyond of what we are seeing here. In this case, evidence is detected in function of the alteration of the water sediments where the exploitation is being held. Two different methodologies addressed with remote sensing tools and different methodologies. After that introduction, let's talk about the figures. Monitoring report is telling us that we have 752 hectares of evidence of EVOA on land in the Colombian territory. So you see the evidence and mainly focus the north, west of the Colombian, east mainly Anacal mountain range, and the main focus is here in this location. This concentration we can see is also distributed in 11 departments, where Chocó concentrate 70% of all the national evidence reported for this period 2020, 40,898 hectares, and Chocó 36 hectares. And here we are still doing emphasis just in that detection. General EVOA. We're not getting into the legal or illegal framework. Now let's see the EVOA on water detection. This is just detection. 10 rivers we are studying, covering 7,000 kilometers. Caquetá, Amazonas, Purel, Cotuel, Yari, Apapores, Inírida, Negro, Atabajo rivers. From this, the one with more alerts of EVOA reported was the Caquetá River. During this period, Amazon and Apure River, we have not recorded any alert for this type of exploitation. Let's see, going to the detection, let's go beyond. As we were able to see, detection is identifying where it is, in which departments, and how much. And also, it's allowing us to see the density, where we have more. Here in the screen, we can see a zoom between the territory Antioquia and Bolivar, where is the main focus of EVOA. Dark color, where the larger incidence of EVOA per square meter we are finding. Also in Chocó. In Chocó, we can see that belt, that circuit, that line that is generated with larger EVOA density. Quito River, San Pablo Canton, Novita, and so on. That's just detection. Let's go beyond. What you're seeing here is a historical series of 5 moments. Historical data showing us how much per period is also showing us that by 2014, when we began with this monitoring, we have 79,000 hectares, and this year we have 100,072. Yes, there is an increase, and we can see the year-by-year increase between 2019 and 2020. The increase was 3%, but beyond detecting that increase through different surveys and this analysis, we can identify that changing dynamics. Where is it changing? By 2019, the EVOA was specific. What happened with that in 2020? And that way we are developing some dynamics model where we are able to see and start identifying intervention lines. In that screen, you see the Colombian map and the change dynamic. EVOA between 2019 to 2020 and how it has changed. We have classified it with the ministry in 2 large classes. Star EVOA, stable EVOA. Stable EVOA. You are seeing some examples here where we have 2019 and below 2020. In these blue tones is EVOA, and it remains 2019 and it continues through 2020. That's stable EVOA. And the 58% of the EVOA recorded for 2020 is stable, correspond to 87,035 hectares. And in Chocó, coincidential 78% concentration of this EVOA. But there is another category in this dynamic, the new EVOA. New EVOA reporting 3% of EVOA. What is the new EVOA? Those locations or areas where by 2019 there was no evidence of exploitation of alluvial gold on land, but in 2020 they started to appear. So in this example here, we can see that here there is a river, no 2019 evidence of exploitation, but by 2020 this evidence started to appear, and we know that there is an evidence that they appear 3% only, 3,400 hectares. Antioquia is focusing 50% of the new EVOA. The next category of this dynamic is the expanding EVOA, similar to the new EVOA. But the difference is the expanding EVOA is that the phenomenon was already there, but it was expanding. As you can see in the screen, this EVOA of 2019 up to here, but then by 2020, that part growth. That's an expanding EVOA. Expanding EVOA corresponds to 9,943 hectares. Antioquia is focusing 56% of this and Choco 20%. The last category that makes reference to the indication of these grasslands and pastures when that's not active, they're not moving anymore, that's all. Natural starts doing its job, and we start to see these stovers that are growing and natural regeneration. But also, it's important to bear in mind that the natural cessation is not going to reach the ideal point, the original recovery of the plant area cover initially. That implies a different survey, and it all depends of the genoplasm in the territory to go back to the initial conditions. With regards to the EVOA with these grasslands and pastures, we had 10,042 hectares, that's 10% EVOA. Between 2019 and 2020, Antioquia and Bolivar are focusing 78%. That is giving us that besides the detection and the dimension of the area, we can see where is it going. What can we do in those territories? That's very well complemented with the next pillar. That's the second pillar. That's the law EVOA.
As you can see in the Colombian map in the screen, and we show that these laws are being marked in the technical and environmental frameworks that are being required so we can exercise in the framework of the law. In this concept, we're saying that we have three great categories. The first one is with the technical environmental emissions, 74% of the exploitation of the gold alluvial exploitation, and they have technical and environmental. They have the that means that they have the technical or environmental permission. The second category corresponds to the illegal transit, and this is a category that still does not have the permissions, but they are in the process of being legalized and having all the environmental and technical permissions if we approve them of laws 685 and 955 of 2019, and we're thinking of having these contemplated areas, and these are related to the traditional mining, and these we have the request for them to be legalized, and they are in the process, and they have some particular things that they can continue to do the exploitation of gold, but they cannot do it with machinery and land. They have to do it through manual means, and 47% of all the EVOA that was recognized in 2019 are in this category. Now we have the illegal exploitation. Now we have 69% of the 29 of all these hectares are illegal exploitation. This means that they do not have any permission. They don't have anything that will give them the technical or environmental permission to do exploitation. So here are the legal frameworks, the contracts in general are the permissions that are being that are in progress, so they can have the exploitation permissions. But while they do not have the technical environmental permissions, that in this case will belong to the authorities, they cannot exercise this exploitation. And here we also have a very important point, or very important data, that in this illegal exploitation we have the mining zones. Now we also have mining zones of ethnic zones. And what does this mean? Even the mining zones give you some limitations to the ethnic groups. What this means that it has privation over the third parties to continue with the process and to acquire these permissions, but they do not give them. So while we do not have this exploitation permission, we consider it, and if they carry out this activity within these zones, we consider it to be an illegal exploitation. Now, something that is very important here is all the alerts that we have seen in the 8 rivers, where we have they correspond or belong to illicit or illegal exploitation. Let's carry out details in the two departments where they have great presence of Ebola that were reported. Let's look at Antioquia. Antioquia has, as you can see in the screen, you're looking at the map, and the greens colored one or the green shaded one are the ones that belong to this, and the orange or the illegality, and from everything we have seen before, and the red we have the illegal exploitation. So Antioquia has around 47% with environmental and technical permissions, but 49% with illegal exploitation, only 40% that is in the transit of or in the process of being legal. So in Evo in general. In Choco, 8% count with the environmental and technical permissions, 10% are in the process of being legalized, and 82% corresponds or belong to illegal exploitation. More than 80% of the Evo that have been detected in the Department of Choco belongs to the illegal mining, and you can see it in the screen which are these exploitations and where we are finding this illegal exploitation. As you can see, not only the dynamics in the first place, the EVOA and the law figures or numbers are also beginning to strengthen or reinforce this in the territory. It's not only telling us where we can find it, but it's telling us what we can do in this territory. So now we can see that we have an AVOA that is an expansion and that is illegal, and that we can do control in these cases depending on where we can find them, and we're going to see this more ahead. So now we can also see if we have an AVOA that is in the process of being legalized but is showing you expansion. It cannot have expansion because we cannot use any machinery in land, only manual tools. And as you can see, each of the characteristics, each one of the pillars that are giving us strength, we're strengthening and are improving the understanding of what is happening in the territory. Now let's look at the other pillar, the third pillar that we were speaking about, that has to do with the restrictions, environmental restrictions framework. As we was mentioning, are in the function of the mining code, and this normative or have three great sites. The first ones are the ones excluded from mining. These are the territories, as we said, we cannot go ahead with any exploitation or in mining, because these are environmentally protective zones. We have the national parks, and here we also have all the forest reserves. We also have all the ransom sites, and we cannot go ahead with these exploration or exploitation activities. And 58% of the avoid that we have detected in 2020 corresponds or belong to this pillar in the illegal mining. And we also have another great category, which are the ones that are free from environmental zones. They do say they do not have any restrictions to carry out this practice. We can carry out this practice if we have all the authority or legal requirements, if we have all the permissions, if they have environmental and technical permissions. And here we have that 48% of the Ebola that have been detected in 2020 belong to this category. But as you can see in the middle, there is a zone that is called restricted mining zones. This is what we were speaking about. The first two slides where we were speaking about where we can carry out the exploitation or exploration of this mining. And here we also have the ethnic community mining. And why can we have progress on this? Because we can also see that we have the protection of biodiversity elements for the cultural environmental part, and we also have some urban parameters. We have low tides, we have some that are very well defined in the norms or standards where we can carry out these activities, but throughout other requirements and other premises that depend on the category. Here in the map we can see in the green shade corresponds to the excluded mining zones, and we can see the great part of this map have these territories and these protection sites. So nevertheless, we have to bear in mind that we have to have 93% of the all the avoid that is in this part correspond or belong to the, let's say, they belong to the environmental protection zones that are sustainable of this extraction. What does this mean? Well, in this moment belong to a protective zone, but according to studies that are being carried out by the environmental authorities, it can be extracted and it can go to the restricted mining zones or mining free zone, where of all the avoid in this part corresponds or belong to the second law and it can happen. But another important thing to mention here is that from the illegal exploitation that we were speaking about in the prior slide, 70% of all this illegal exploitation can coincide with this.
Well, let's see beyond other special management territories in the Colombian territory. We have what we call some environmental protected zones, but not included within the zones excluded from mining. There is a restriction under the framework of the legislation, and we cut the GRUNAP areas. Those are 6,459, 6% of total EVOA detected in the national territory. Indigenous reserve, less than the one detected in 2019. It went down, and the black communities, ethnic communities located mainly in the Pacific area, have 41% of this structure. 41% that correspond to those territories with particular target differential focus, mainly trying to protect this patrimony, not cultural patrimony, but also in the territories is very important. And I want to highlight that the three pillars are now giving us more information, and one is complemented the other, articulating to give us some indications or guidelines from where we can address this phenomenon of illegal exploitation. So let's see this scheme in a general manner. We can say that the territory is unarticulated and particular. The particularity there is that we have either strengths and weaknesses. You see here EVOA, but we can have other illegal crops. 41% of the territories with EVOA recorded also illegal crops by 2019, and also everything that has to do with the law figures. Where are those environmental elements to control the activity? So if we identify individually, we're going to be able to define some partial intervention lines, but we comprehend, integrate all the elements of the territory, we can have a comprehensive understanding of what's going on and what would be the intervention line. Black communities, it is very different when there is an illegal EVOA at black communities. Differential management, special conditions, but if that illegal exploitation is in these mining areas, we can move to that regulation, or if they are in areas excluded from mining. You see, each element is particular. Each element nourishes and feeds the model, and is telling us what can we do and what we can't do according to the dynamic, according to the law. I mean, what's legal, what's not legal. And third, the territory where those activities are being developed. So I want to emphasize here that we can have a comprehensive vision, strengthening the reference framework and strengthening the design of policies, design of strategies to target the interventions also. So I want to finish by saying that through all my presentation, you were able to see that we have a lot of information, robust information that is giving to us different elements. But this is not just all. We have an institutional commitment, and we want to improve each time the framework of reference of exploitation, and we are currently working with the Ministry of Mines in a model, as I have been mentioned, the lines of intervention, a comprehensive model of all the intervention lines that could be implemented in the Colombian territory. EVOA detection goes beyond, the EVOA model goes beyond the area. It implies or it's articulated with other thematic analysis, axis geographic analysis that will give us the x-ray of what is really going on in the territory. So thank you very much for your attention. I invite you to read this document in detail. You can find it in the institutional website. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you very much to Ms. Sandra Rodriguez for her presentation. And to close this virtual event, I give the floor to the Minister of Mines and Energy, Mr. Diego Mesa Puyo.
We would like to give a special greetings to the Ambassador, Dr. Philip Goldberg, the representative of the United Nations Office Against Drugs and Crimes, Mr. Pierre Lapac, Dr. Sandra Rodriguez Fear from the Digital Processing Area, from the Satellite Imaging Against Drugs and Crime, our Vice Ministry of Mining, Dr. Sandra Sandoval, Dr. Ordóñez, consultant of the ministry who worked on this report, and Dr. Alvaro Chavez, Director of Public Security in the Ministry of Defense. It is a pleasure to be here again in this publication for 2020 of this very important report of alluvial gold exploitation with special indices. I would like to begin with one of the commitments that after one of the president candidates did, President Duque, during his campaign, he said that one of the pillars of the mining policy was to foster mining development with the highest standards, including an environmental sustainable program in the mining and battling without this illegal mining. And this is two of the greatest policies that we have in this sector. One is the formalization of mining with high environmental standards, high environmental, technical, and cultural to battle this illegal extraction of minerals. And we also have the certification of mining, which makes us think of these great minerals that we have in the country, as it is the case of gold and copper, which is one of the fundamental ones for our policy of energetical transition. But it's very important for us to bet on the development of this activity with legal mining, as we have defined it in the ministry. Without being legal in this activity, we cannot have progress or advance and create development and environmental well-being or welfare for our territory. And the growth of any territory, of any practice, will go through any of the activities that are going to be in a legal framework. And here I would like to emphasize that what we've seen in the territory is the majority of people who practice mining, they have legal, and our responsibility as public policy creators is to improve these conditions with a different focus approach, so we can have this transit towards the legality. And here we would like to tell you that throughout this government we have been able to formalize more than 5,000 miners. To give context to this number, it's a number that is beyond what we had done in the last 8 years. But finally, we would like to reach August 2022 with 20,000 miners who are going to be formalized, which is 10 times more than what that we had done in the story of our country. But we know that we will have to do a lot more to create these opportunities, addressing procedures that had not been done in the past, and legalizing the different focus that we have included in the Development National Plan, understanding that we have to create these opportunities for the miners who have the legal vocational part. And as Dr. Sandra was mentioning, in the different territories of the country, facilitating the access of these resources of all this process give us. And we have assigned more than 36,000 million pesos to 6 projects in Antioquia, in Cundinamarca, and that have been guided or directed toward the mining development centers, offering them services to all these miners who want to be legal, and with all these territory entities, with the mayor's office, and of course with some. We have also included for the first time And these insensitive items, 52 municipalities that have the process of all these minerals that have received more than 55 million pesos, thousand million pesos. And we have also carried out our work with that is very specific in the financial inclusion, because we know that this is another one of the fundamental points to be able to give this step forth for the formalization and legality. And we have been working strongly with this finance part that would allow this territory to understand the mining in a very small scale in general. And we have also worked with Asobancaria, carrying out all these looking at the risks that we have for these mining sectors, and we are also trying to achieve and meet all these metrics. And with the mining ministry, we have also given a web service for the consultancy or information before the banks for their customers and their potential customers in this sector. We also created a special credit line that's met, and with the ministry given more than 7,000 million pesos to give these holders credits, and we are supporting the bill 440 on banking for the mining sector. In this way, we continue to support the financial inclusion. Well, this bed of legality is taking us to have better practice and for it to derive in services for the territory, so we can create formal employment investments and also to have a social work, and for us to pay royalties and taxes. And to wrap this up in this formalization topic, we have also been investing resources that will allow us to know the subsurface a lot better in the geological part, betting on these great gold and copper projects that would allow us to diversify the mining matrix. And on the other side, I would also like to make emphasis on the support and the fostering of all these activities that can prevent and eliminate the illegal extraction. And that's why this report is so valuable, because it creates information, additional information, so we can make decisions in the political policies, the public policy, and it will also make you so they can make use of all this in the regions, and it constitutes a very significant or meaningful challenge when we have a phenomenon of this illegal gold exploitation in particular, which have been created with such a negative impacts for the communities where we have this scourge. And this has been done in the articulated through the United Nations against crime and drugs, and with the American Embassy and with the Ministry of Mining and Energy. And what we like to do with this work is to carry out this, give you this information in a very transparent and complete way on the alluvial gold exploitation, so you can also so the citizenship can also get to know this. And it's worth a while to mention the numbers that we have seen in the technical presentation of this report. And for the year 2020, we identified that 12 of the 32 departments present EVOA in their territory, with a total of 100,000 hectares, which gives us a growth of EVOA of 3% in regards to 2019, which this is a very important growth. And it's very important to mention that in the year 2020, we had a gold production growth of more than 20%, given this increase that's why it gives us the price that we have now. So in this EVOA growth, we see that this growth is very under or beneath the growth of the country. But there are great concerns when the report gives you evidence that we detected EVOA again in the Parque Nacional Farallones de Cali territory and in the Reservas de Paraguay, and this last one, an increase of 22 hectares. Us from the minister, we're some of the main defenders of the value of these protective areas, which, as it is the Reserva Natural of Paraguay Reserve, which gives you rivers and gives all the water bodies that are there, and which are very important geographical areas in the country, on Orinoco and Amazonas. And with this, we would like to uh, alert you with this, and we are battling this phenomenon with the illegal exploitation, and is based on us that we have to articulate and increase all the competencies, and of course of the ministry. And here we would like to mention that we have been also working with the Environment Ministry to strengthen the control of legal mining of minerals, and for the things that we are about to sign, where we have crime punishments for these people who exploit these natural parks. We're seeking to continue fighting this in a very strong way with this scourge, and we're also working with through the DECAS program, the unit which are giving us the social, technical, environment, and operational, among others. To conclude, I would like to also say that I'm very pleased to be delivering some very valuable information to the country and our citizenships to get to know this territory for the decision making, and to continue believing in a mining sector which we can develop with all the legal frameworks. And with this, we're complying with the commitment of President Duque and his government to have a legal mining and competitive mining, where we can have all this before all the environment before us, when we continue to consolidate Colombia as a sort of the energetical transition, making use of all the things that we need for this trend that is worldwide.
Thank you, Minister, for your talk and for being here with us. We appreciate also very much to Mr. Ambassador Goldberg, the UNOCD LEPAC, and all who were following the streaming in the social media. Gratitude to all the teams of the Colombian Embassy of the United States in Colombia, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. The full document of this report and additional materials, the infography, are already available at the UNODC Colombia website, and the platforms, all the other entities that are during this topic of alluvial gold exploitation. This is all the presentation of the report of the technical presentation.